Hi and welcome to Gweedore, my hometown. Is Misha Sonia Glaspag as in Colact Legidleruhan. Is Colact Telefishibuj, a yen and Don Hodgesmo, Clara Fashnisha, Ak La Journas, Hashimajik Genu, our Arlena, the TG Care, Sishan Malskill. Hi, my name's Sonia Glaspag. I'm the owner of Luggage TV Productions. We're based here in GTEC in Gweedore, and we make mainly documentaries and online content for the National Irish Language broadcaster TG Care. So I'm very glad to be here today, and it's great to see so many different faces. I'm here to do an interview with Michal O'Haney, CEO of Údarás na Gaeltachta since 2017. Údarás na Gaeltachta was founded in 1980, and they are the regional authority responsible for the social, economic and cultural development of the beautiful Gaeltacht areas that we have here in Ireland. So I'll start with the first question. So what are the main objectives for the community and language that Údarás have, and where does tech come into those objectives?
Good morning, Sonia. I suppose just to say about Údarás na Gaeltachta, we're a state development agency, but we're fairly unique, in fact totally unique as a state development agency, because we've got a specific regional remit and we've also got a culture and language remit. So from the outset, in undertaking our development work, we have to be cognizant not just of economic matters, but also community and very much Irish language, because the reason that we exist as a separate agency is to serve the Gaeltacht community and to work with those communities to maintain them as viable and as Irish speaking. And that means that people can live there, that they can work there, that they can learn there, that they can recreate there, that they can grow old there. So we adopt an integrated approach to our development, and our strategy is one that's economic, social and cultural, and it's very much based on the sustainability of the region, the sustainability of the communities, the sustainability in terms of the environment. Sustainability runs through all of our activities, and we have a very strong emphasis, not just on things like technology, but using technology to sustainably develop our natural resources. So we've moved very much with the times since Údarás was founded 40 years ago, and prior to that, our predecessor company, Gaeltra Éireann, this business park where we're here today, this started off as an industrial estate in the late 1960s. And at that time, the government undertook to get Gaeltra Éireann to develop this, to put factories in place, to attract inward investment. Would be SMEs, but very large industries for this area at the time. And it was a very successful strategy, because it enabled people. This industrial estate, as it was then, employed 1,500 people at its peak, an awful lot of people in a remote rural area. And it was very successful because it enabled people to stay here. It enabled a lot of people to come home from Scotland, from the United States, and from places they had emigrated to. And that provided a great basis in terms of a thriving community here and all of the services that go with serving that. With the economic changes in the 1990s, a lot of those old industries moved to cheap labor locations. So they probably came here first because we were a cheap labor location, and they worked very well here, but that was the economics. So we as Údarás had to reinvent our approach and to look at new and innovative ways of developing the region, of attracting new investment, of supporting entrepreneurs in the region, of being innovative and being creative. And creativity is something that just runs through all Gaeltacht areas, and I think we have a big comparative and competitive advantage in that, because just because of our culture, our language, and the way of thinking. You know, one of our subsidiary companies is Ali Nageltachta, totally devoted to the creative sector, to arts, the traditional arts and so on. People would have heard on Cronog last night. We spend a lot of time ensuring that those traditions of song, music and dance are passed on to new generations. It's very important. It's a key part of what we are as a region, a key part of the quality of life, of the culture that we have here. And as things changed and as this industrial estate as it was, you know, went into the doldrums, we were faced with that new challenge. But we also saw that with challenge there's opportunity. And we saw that we had to learn, that we had to change, that we had to network with people that are doing things different ways. And that's what we've done in terms of our strategy. And one of the key elements of our existing strategy is the GTech network. And I'll be over in GTech Gweedore after the session here for lunch and for the Catalyst session. And people will see what we're doing there. We are setting up a network of digital hubs, some 30 digital hubs spread out throughout the Gaeltacht region, where where entrepreneurs can be supported, where we support innovation, creativity, people that want to research, develop projects, initiate projects. As well as that, they're bases for remote workers, because we know the environment and we know the quality of life that we have here, and it's second to none. We heard the rain praised this morning, and I'd go along with that. And we can attract people back to the region with their jobs that they can bring back from the central locations they were working in because of their quality of life. But we now provide the facilities and ensure that there's the connectivity so that people can work here under no disadvantage as to when they worked in London or Glasgow or Boston or New York or wherever they were working. So, and that's extremely important because, you know, that levels the playing field for regions such as this. And I know it's something that all of the Northwest is focusing on, and it's definitely something that Udros is focusing on, as was said earlier, from Tory Island in the very north to Cape Clear Island in the very south. And those are things that we can build on. And just finally on that, this was a key part of our strategy. And I suppose the only silver lining of COVID for us was that it sort of accelerated the acceptance of that model. You know, we would have preferred to find better ways of doing that, but it's something that accelerated that model, not just amongst people, employees, but especially amongst employers.
And I can agree with that, having come home 2 years ago myself and benefiting from the GTech that is over the road. The companies on the estate here are focusing more on innovation now compared to, I remember years ago when there would be traffic jams coming out of here. How do you entice them to come here? Is it as part of that the regional natural resources that we have, and or are they native companies, and how can they survive on a global level from here?
Yeah, well, there's a mixture, and I think the main resource that we have that attracts and maintains companies here is the human resource, and we have the talent, and we have the people that, you know, even when the old companies were here, they didn't leave because the people weren't delivering. They left because that was the economics. So I think that, you know, the fact that we have people here that are adaptable and agile and creative is a massive advantage when we try to attract people in or when people are establishing their own enterprises. An awful lot of the very innovative companies that we have throughout the Gaeltacht would be indigenous companies, companies that would have started off quite small, some of them spin-outs from universities. And then eventually, if you look at some of the companies here, a large company here, ProAmpac, which was an indigenous company which started off very small, now have been bought over by ProAmpac, which is a large American corporation. All of the advantages that go with that, but it's an extremely valuable part of ProAmpac's operations now, the fact that they were able to come in here and a very successful, innovative company here take over. So we have, and I think it's, I mentioned the remote working and facilitating people to bring their jobs home, and that's going to enable people to live at home that when they were starting off on their careers or going to college said, I'll probably go home when I retire. But no, that's changing, and that's something we're supporting. But as well as that, people can also have world-class careers in the Gaeltacht, in companies like Pro-Ampac, like Randox in Dunlow, like Irish Metal Pressings here, companies in Galway like Mylan, like Freudenberg and so on. So they're looking for good, qualified people, and these people can have world-class careers living and taking full advantage of being in the Gaeltacht areas. So the companies are strong. We're delighted to say that, you know, our base of companies gone from strength to strength, and a key part of our strategy is building on the existing companies, assisting them with research, innovation, upskilling, reskilling of workers as required, and that's very important. And you mentioned resources there. We're blessed with resources such as the blue economy, the green economy, cultural economy, and these four are central parts of our strategy too. So if you look at the blue economy, the ocean resource that we have there, one of our key projects is Park Namara, a marine innovation park, to focus on research, innovation, and added value across the marine sector. So that's a project that we're developing in Galway. Another thing that we're developing is supports for the emerging offshore wind industry. We have enormous opportunities here, and we're working in Russabeel in County Galway to actually, there's a deep water port being developed there, and we've got a land bank there that we're going to develop as a support centre, manufacturing and servicing for the offshore wind industry. So generating wind, producing hydrogen and so on. So it's a key part of our strategy as well. So, and in terms of the other parts of the green economy, the bioeconomy, the Killalt project in Falcara, a great example of the type of bioeconomy project that can be led by the community. And just on that, the community are key partners for us in everything we do. And just on that, 25 acres of this business park here is now being given over to the community to develop a photovoltaic electricity generation park, which will be in community ownership and will reduce the carbon footprint of the business park here and do all of the good things in terms of SDGs, but as well as that, provide vital income for those communities to carry on their activities to serve the community. And community development is a key part of our remit, and we have 33 community development organisations that we support in all parts of the Gaeltacht. We're involved in service provision and developing local resources themselves, and are key partners for us in our strategy.
Going back to the GTEX and the diaspora and the effects that COVID had, I suppose, on people throughout the world and the movement of people throughout the world, do you have a strategy to bring people home, and is the infrastructure there, I suppose, for them when they come to rural communities like this?
Well, I suppose in terms of the working infrastructure, I suppose, you know, our initial strategy, our 2018-2020 strategy had set out the need for these digital hubs. So in terms of the working infrastructure and the connectivity, we're well prepared for that. In terms of the communities and the quality of life and schools and things for people that are moving home with families, and the recreational side, everything, you know, on that side. I mean, that's what we're selling about the place, and it's in place. Like all parts of Ireland, there is a housing issue, and that's one that we're addressing. We're working with Donegal County Council at the moment to come up with innovative ways of maybe trying to address aspects of that. So, but it is something that we've been working on preparing for. It's a key part of our strategy, and I think that it's very encouraging to see the types of people that have been returning home, and not just carrying out their own business, but adding to the overall synergies of places like the GTEX, and the way that the businesses in the GTEX and so on are kind of rubbing off on each other, and kind of, you know, just creating synergies and added value amongst themselves. It's very important.
Do you think, being slightly biased, I think this is probably the most beautiful Gaeltacht in Ireland, do you think that the beauty and the culture and the environment here has a lot to do with bringing people back
Yeah, well, I just have to say that all Gaeltacht areas are beautiful, and but now that we'll talk about the Donegal Gaeltacht for the moment. I think there's no doubt about it. Is that the people that were lucky enough to be here yesterday evening and see the Errigal, and to look out at the islands and so on. I mean, it's second to none in terms of landscape, seascape, the general environment. Added to that, the culture. And I mean, like that we have that unique culture, that's never died. I was just thinking there in terms of, we had the American ambassador here last week, and a colleague of mine, Donacha, was giving a rundown on our strategy, and he was talking about the GTECs. And he's carried out, I'd say, some very robust research, but he was able to say that where many of our GTECs are situated now, going back 1,000 years ago, there were monastic settlements where the education was carried out at the time. So we have a continuous line of learning for thousands of years up to the present day, and that's very real. We have an unbroken tradition in the Gaeltacht areas in terms of language, in terms of culture, and the learning that was going on that time. And a lot of it has come down to us through kind of by mouth, through folklore and so on. But it's very, very real. And I think that that's something unique that we have and that people really appreciate when they do come to live in the Gaeltacht regions.
I'm getting a time check here. One minute. And culturally on the language side of it and the responsibility there for Gaeltacht areas, what is the long-term plan with bringing companies in here and bringing people back to sustain that and to develop that as well?
We're carrying out a language planning process in partnership with 26 communities throughout the Gaeltacht region. So we're working in partnership as part of Strategy that we carry out that planning process. And that's a very valuable process because it's a bottom-up process and it's owned by the communities, led by the communities, in partnership with ourselves. It's not abdicated over to the communities, but it is a partnership approach, and I think that that's very, very valuable in providing us with the framework and bringing forward the language. And there's other things like the technologies that are developing around the language that we heard people mentioning earlier on. I mean, that's very, very valuable in terms of language learning, in terms of support for the language, and what's very important for us. I think it was mentioned last night, the European context. This language that we speak here, and a lot of people in Ireland speak it, but we're the only place where it's a community language. That's now a working language of the European Union. And that's very, very important to have that broad context. So we have the European context, the national context, and the local context. And as anybody that works here knows, I mean, Irish is a key part of our life here every day. From an Údarás point of view, it's the whole raison d'être for Údarás na Gaeltachta, and it's what we're there for. And so it's just a very real part of this region and what this region is all about.
Michal, thank you very, very much. And I, for one, can speak on behalf of anybody who wants to move home here to Gweedore and to the GTECs, that it's very worthwhile, and we haven't looked back since we came home. Thank you very, very much for your time and your patience, and thank you very much again.